I think I would agree with him under the belief, like, if these things are something that's real, it's most likely that this is their home. They didn't come from some exoplanet or something like this. And that's kind of like a growing school of thought that anthropologists believe that if super intelligent life evolved somewhere else, so let's say, like I had one guy explain to me, out of all the catalog species of animals on the planet Earth, there's like 2 million, over 2 million, and 20 of them are hominids, and one of the 20 are the ones that could figure out technology to escape the planet. So we're like 0.001% of living species on this Earth that's teeming with life.
Right.
So of all the other planets that we know that are in Goldilocks zones that are able to have life, a lot of them are water worlds. A lot of them have a way different temperatures, different chemicals in the water, whatever it is. Maybe some of them experience more cosmic impacts. But like what this anthropologist was explaining to me was that like, the chances of them evolving to be bipedal hominids that walk upright with their eyes sitting directly below their brains and all that stuff is like almost zero.
Yeah. I am in full agreement with him on that. Because, so that's a really interesting idea. So there's all this stuff about the Greys. That's the other thing. It's like, the Greys. And they're, they look like little people with slightly misshapen. I mean, that is not the way evolution works. So the cool thing about evolution, I talked about this in the book because, I had to go, I'm an astrobiologist, but more on the astro side. So I've had to learn a lot about evolution. There's two forces in evolution. There is, and they're interesting because they play off each other. On the one hand, there is convergence, right? That, evolution presents, life or a planet will present evolving life forms with a bunch of problems, right? If you have solid land and then gas, like, air, that you got to figure out how to go get food, right? So, how are you going to do that? Well, wheels, or legs, jointed sticks, right? So, and if the air's thick enough, you could fly. So wings, right? So probably evolution on another planet would come up with similar solutions like jointed sticks, i.e. legs. But there's so that's what we call convergence. That, evolution, there's only, because of physics and chemistry, there's only certain solutions to the problems of go get food.
Okay.
Right? So that's convergence. On the other side, though, is contingency, which is, random stuff like accidents, basically. And that is also a hugely powerful force in evolution. So say you're starting to evolve something that has, jointed sticks the way our legs are, like the way our knees are, right? With that, the way the knees work, right? And then, there's a drought and all the creatures that, had that mutation that started with our kind of legs, they all wipe out, right? When the other species or the next species comes up and solves the problem, there's no guarantee. In fact, it's probably unlikely that you'll do the exact same solution. You'll have jointed sticks, but maybe they'll be jointed in the other way, the way birds' legs are. Or you'll have 6 joints, or you'll end up with 5.
Jointed the other way. That'd be freaky. Goddamn.
Yeah, right, with a dog legs or something.
Yeah.
So, they've done experiments where this is really cool. They took a bunch of microbes, right? And they, microbes have very short time scales for evolution. So they let them evolve for a while. And then they evolved certain characteristics, like, they're bigger than the ones they started with. On average, the cells are bigger. Right. So then they took them and they took half of them and they froze them. Right. And just so that these things are not reproducing anymore, they let the other half go on evolving. And then they took the frozen ones out and let them evolve again to watch, like, do we get the same things? These other ones that evolved, we now do it for like 20 years. We see how this one group evolved. Now we're going to take the ones that we froze and let them evolve. Do we get the same things? And the answer was no, because it's all about accidents. Accidents really matter. So the idea that you're going to get something with like a bipedal, shoulders, arms, eyes that look like us, it's probably...
So if those things are real, and if all those experiences are like, if this is not just lore and myth 100%, it's probably that those things are from here, or maybe even us from a different timeline, like from the future.
Well, I would say...
Or like say that there's a breakaway civilization living under the ocean or something like that, that we don't see, or in Antarctica, know?
Well, I would be highly skeptical of all those. I would say in general, like my position would be like, they're not true.
Do you think it's possible, though, if we continue on our trajectory right now in humanity with technology and everything, that it is possible that we would look like that in 50,000 years?
I think at 50,000 years, I
Because
mean, listen,
muscles would atrophy. You know, maybe our heads would get bigger, eyes. I don't know.
yeah, but we got two things. We've got genetic engineering. So, you know,
Yes,
in
that's
10,000
true.
years,
That's
not even
true.
10,000 years, in 1,000 years, we may be sexless space orbs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my daughter likes to say.
So he
You
was-
know,
so-
I mean, you know,
yeah.
so, we, you know, I doubt that in 100,000, I think in 100,000 years, we probably are going to look, you know, we may not even have arms or legs or anything anymore. I mean, just because, you know, that's a long time. And we have the ability to evolve ourselves to take over evolution.
Yeah.
You know?
This anthropologist was explaining to me this concept called pedomorphism, which is it's a term in evolution where the future generations of, like, specifically in apes or chimpanzees, the fully grown adults look more like the offspring of the ancestors.
Oh, is that like with dogs? That dogs look more like dogs look like puppies. Like full-grown dogs look like puppies.
So if you look at
puppies of wolves.
if you look at like a newborn chimpanzee, it looks more like a human being than it does look like a full-grown chimpanzee. Their head slopes back, they kind of arch over, they grow these huge limbs, and they kind of like they're hunched. But if you look at a baby chimpanzee, it sits straight up like this. And it doesn't have that jaw and that sloping forehead,
Yeah.
right? So like the offspring look more like us, more evolved,
it's interesting. I wonder if I don't know. So it's hard for me to evaluate. I'm not
like you see. So
Yeah.
there's an adult and
Right.
there's a baby,
Right.
right? So the baby looks more like its future,
Yeah.
what it's going to be in the future, right?
Yeah.
So if you extrapolate this into the future now, you would say these grays look like they're the size of toddlers. You know, they kind of they have bigger heads, they're shorter.
Yeah.
So this was just something he was throwing at the wall.
Yeah. No,
saying
I mean, you know, because again, I think in general, I think the grays, you know, my whole thing with UFOs and UAPs is like, there's just, as a scientist and as a science fiction fan, I also there's so much about it that I'm like, get out of here. Like, for example, let's put this, right? UFOs, right? They always they're from a super advanced civilization. They don't want us to know that we're here. Okay, turn off the fucking lights. Right? It's like, I saw lights in the sky. Like, the whole, unless you want to write a really complicated science fiction story, well, they don't want us to know, but they do want us to know. In general, like these things, they're always they're trying to hide from us because they don't just sit around and be like, yo, what's up? We're from outer space. So they're trying to not be seen, but they suck at it, you know? And I'm like, come on. Like, the problem with all the UFO stuff, it ends up being this highly elaborate science fiction story. And my thing is, if it sounds like a science fiction story, it is a science fiction story. So my whole thing with what I call the high beam argument, which is like, look, if they really don't want to be discovered, turn off the lights, you know? Well, why do they have lights on their things if they don't want to be known?
Well, maybe they only want to use them when they don't care about being seen, right? Because if you look at the big picture, they're pretty damn good at hiding. There's only anecdotal stories of this worldwide.
But exactly.
history.
So why, if they're pretty good at hiding, they should be really good at hiding. So it just doesn't, I mean, like totally good at hiding. They have advanced technology that can travel either backwards in time or, you know, across, because we really have to get to how interstellar distances, it is not, from my point of view, it is entirely possible that, you know, interstellar distances may really not be travelable.